And we are live. Hello to all my BC WrestlePod nerds out there. And welcome to another rendition of the Takedown Troupe, your weekly TNA review show here on the BC WrestlePod channel, network, whatever you want to call it. I appreciate y'all being here. And of course, I am joined by two of my three lovely co-hosts for this shindig. Of course, first and foremost, well, y'all get a double dose because I got the attack of the wills tonight because I got both wills joining me this evening.
It's a battle of wills.
Yes, literally. The first, of course, being the Papa Oso variant of Will. So happy to have him here. And then, of course, the second variant being of the radio free kind in Will as well. So, unfortunately, our other co-host JT could not make it this evening, but he did watch the show. He will be giving me his thoughts when I talk to him after this review. Alrighty, so we are literally a few weeks away from Slammiversary. Shoot, it's next Sunday. That's why. Oh my lord, there's too much wrestling.
Only 1 week away.
That is very true. It is 1 week away because, yeah, as of tomorrow, in 7 days, Slammiversary will be happening. There's so much wrestling going on. I mean, I did complain that I wanted summer to be crazy. This is not what I meant, wrestling world and wrestling gods, but that is okay. We are here tonight to review the Thursday, July 10th edition of TNA. We're going to get into all of that. But before we do, if you managed to find your way here, whether through a friend, the algorithm, or you by random chance, thank you. And you can help support us here at BC WrestlePub by hitting that subscribe button. Follow us on Twitch and Kick. And as you know, all the good stuff. We do reviews of all the weekly shows and the pay-per-views. And we do watch-alongs for the big four pay-per-views of the company. So it's going to be a lot of watch-alongs for the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned for all that information. But if you cannot sit through a whole entire review because your time is very limited, you can still get your daily dose of craziness by following us on the social media platforms at BC WrestlePod on anywhere and everywhere, where you can see our clips, our report cards, and all the other good stuff we got going on. We also have some merchandise at Fourth Wall / BC WrestlePod, where we have merch for all our review teams, our summer collection, our Pride 24/7 365 collection, and as well as a special collection, which is in testament to the resistance to fascism here in this country. So if that suits your needs, or you want to support us in any way you can, those are the multiple ways you can do so. But let's get into why we are all here this evening to talk about TNA wrestling. Dare I say, this was very, very wrestling focused. There was very few backstage segments. We had a lot of matches, you guys. Some good, some okay. I will say though, TNA fixed a big issue for me, kind of, when it came to a certain Order 4 faction and who was really pulling the strings. So I was just like, okay. But I still got questions, and we'll talk about that when we get there. So without further ado, let's just dive in because we kick things off this week with our opening match. We have, of course, our TNA Knockouts champions, the Elegance brand, taking on our newest signee girls who have been here for about a month and a half or so, and Mila Grace and Harley Hudson. I mean, we're trying to keep the Elegance brand and the inspiration as far from each other as possible right now. So, to nobody's surprise, the Elegance brand does win here. The best way I could put it, this was a standard, knockouts tag team bout. Shenanigans were about. It's the Elegance brand, since when aren't there shenanigans, in all honesty, with our girls? But I thought this was a fine way to open up the show. I didn't expect anything too crazy, but it was still fun to watch. Radio, I'm going to come to you first. What did you think of our opener match?
It was all right. Not much to... Not like... It was one of those matches of like, it's like, okay, yep, here we go. This is a squash match. This is just here to just make the heels look evil, and like, and which was kind of a bummer to me, because like I would rather see them getting upset, like make it a little more interesting especially for two people that are newcomers to the company, like they kept saying they were. So, but yeah, it was fine. It was a wrestling match. You're muted, dude.
I knew that. No, I mean, we got knockout. I'm excited because it's more knockouts on our screen is cool and everything, and I'm not going to complain about it. But I already knew what we were going to get into based on who we're facing off against each other. I'm like, yeah, we got to keep the Elegance brand winning some stuff because I'm gonna be so for real. I'm pretty sure the inspiration is taking those titles off of them at Slammiversary, but then again, TNA has a way of throwing things, wrench in my plans, and not really. So we'll see what happens with all of that. Papa Oso, any additional thoughts for our openers with Yo Girls of the Elegance brand?
Well, I mean, as you said, I love it. Anytime the ladies are on the screen, it's a good time because we love our knockouts over here. And of course, it's the Elegance girls. They're my girls. And I mean, it was a soft match. Absolutely. I think they could have done this later in the program. I don't necessarily know that I would have opened the night with this because there were some other ones that were so-so, but not necessarily better than this one, but stronger than this one. Because we know this was a showy show. This is what TNA does. TNA, when they have quote unquote new people, this is what they do. They throw these sort of squash matches together, and then they're like, "Oh, hey, you know what? Let's throw it in." I'm like, "Yeah, but it's not really." It could have come later in the program, and I think I would have been much happier with it than starting it out.
This was a pee break match.
Yeah.
This is the kind of match that you put like between two of the bigger ones that you want to highlight so that people can, get up, use the bathroom, and come back. Nothing. It wasn't bad by any stretch of the imagination, but it was, could have been better.
I also think, and to be honest, we don't really know when this was taped because since TNA likes to do their batch recordings, they did double tapings because this is still from their Pittsburgh stop a couple of weeks ago. So who knows what order we're getting all of these in. So this could have been late because they do 2 nights of tapings. They do almost 3.5, 4 hours of tapings, I guess, each night. So who knows where in the night this was. But I feel like maybe we could have put this in the middle of the show and I think it would have been okay because then everything after this has a lot more oomph to it, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
Well, I say that, but we'll get to that one in a little bit. So, but again, the Elegance brand wins. They are heading into Slammiversary to face the Inspiration. Ash has a future Knockouts Championship match at some point. So, very interested to see how the rest of the summer goes. So, we get backstage where we have our lovely interviewer talking to both the Hardys and the Rascals. As we learned last week, Trey Miguel is currently sidelined with a hernia-related injury. And so stepping in for him this week is going to be one other member of the Rascals, independent talent, Myron Reed. I love Myron so much. Myron is currently killing it in MLW as well as popping up in some other independent promotions as well, but he is forever a member of the Rascals. And he is also husbando and to Killer Kelly, who we saw last week. So that's a fun wrestling fact for y'all tonight.
That's right.
Yeah. So this was just a promo to set up our main event later. It would be the Hardys and the Rascals taking on the Nemeths and First Class to kind of give a tease as to what possible chaos we were going to get at Slammiversary in that ladder match Fatal 4-Way coming up soon. And breaking news on the social medias, come to learn that Trey Miguel will be competing with Zachary Wentz at Slammiversary for those tag titles. So Trey will be getting a surgery after the pay-per-view. And so he will still be competing, which I'm like, cool. Don't hurt yourself. I was like, okay. So again, this is just setting up our main event. Nothing crazy, nothing special. I did love that Zach turns to Myron afterwards. Is like, so you got matching gear, right? No, dude, I wear black and red. I don't got anything else. What are you talking about? And Zach's like, all right, we'll make it work. And he's like, what do you mean we'll make it work? Wait, where are you going? I love Zach. I love Myron too. So we will be talking about these boys as well as everybody else later when we get to our main event. Because right now, you want to talk about a squash match? To me, this is how you do a squash match.
Yeah. This was another squash match. This was like they didn't even give them names. What the fuck?
It was just secret. It was just Mustafa Ali's Secret Service. So this is Cedric Alexander and the Great Hands, which is Jason Hodge and John Schuyler, taking on Mustafa Ali's Secret Service in a glorified squash multi-person tag match, if you even want to call it that. I mean, there are squash matches that happen that we have seen that are just squash matches to get people the wins, but with no story hooks in this. This was a squash match that continues to propel the ongoing storyline that we are building towards Slammiversary, specifically between Cedric Alexander and Mustafa Ali. The match itself, I have nothing really to add except Cedric Alexander and the Great Hands were really good in this, especially the Great Hands. I love seeing them being utilized more. But any other thoughts from you two before we get into the meat and potatoes of this whole segment of what happened afterwards?
So now that I think, you're right, it was a squash match. However, now I'm sitting here thinking about it because I even wrote down in my notes another squash match. But now that I'm thinking about it, especially because of what occurs later, where the story goes from here, I'm not sure there's any other way you could have done this. You know, because you needed to set up the chaos that sort of teaches the lesson. You know what I mean? And the only way that you're going to be able to do that is turn these guys against this one guy, but then, realize at the end that wait, what's going on with this? That's how you throw the swerve that comes at the end of the match. I don't think you could set it up any other way without having some kind of squash match going on, or without needlessly bloating the faction. Because if Mustafa Ali were to get other people to help him for this match, it would have made Order 4 that much bigger and would have bloated the stable, which is a bad idea. Order 4, it's 4 people. That's a great plan. It's the new 4 horsemen angle, and I like that. Keep it trimmed down, keep it manageable. So you don't have, the bloodline with their, cajillions of members and
oh Lord,
and kind of cousins that are sort of related on your fifth uncle twice removed side.
It's a whole mess, but that's for a whole nother review show.
Right. So yeah, it's a messy setup, but I think it stuck the landing. I think
it did too. And again, we'll get into depth of what happened after this match. But Papa, do you got anything else to add about, this squash match for story?
Yes, because I'm actually going to not call it a squash match because squash matches are for nothing. Nothing comes of them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to call this a character clash because this advances the story.
Yeah.
Even though we knew what the outcome was going to be, we knew, but it wasn't for nothing. And even though I'm like, okay, we know what the outcome of this is going to be. So I watch it, but, and I'm agreeing with you all in sort of roundabout ways, but I think that, matches like this are sort of essential.
Sure.
Now, the first match, with the Elegance girls and all that, if it was not in this episode at all, we wouldn't have missed it because nothing advanced there. No, there was no character. There was no story advancement. It was just literally hey, let's put the new people against our champions.
Right.
But in this one, there's a storyline going. There's an arc here, and I think that this advanced the story, even though we knew what it was going to be. So I enjoyed it. Was it the best? No, obviously not. But I do like the fact that even though it was a sort of thrown together, just hey, let's put these two, whatever. We're not going to give them names or anything. It still advanced our story for us, which I appreciate, as opposed to just a random let's just throw some people in a ring. Even though I like that as well.
So the other really cool thing about that is that it advanced the storyline with Order 4 and kept the debuting Cedric Alexander looking strong. So it served its purpose. It like probably not the most elegant way of doing it, but it did its job.
I think so too, and I think both of you are correct because again, when you utilize these types of matches, whether character clashes or squash matches, if they have a purpose to it, like again, I'm one of those type of wrestling fans that I don't mind it if there's a purpose beyond, oh, we don't got nothing for them, but we don't want them losing either, so let's just get everybody right. But this propels the narrative that we got going on leading into Slammiversary. Radio, you are right that it also keeps the debuting Cedric Alexander in-ring wise, debuting looking strong. And again, like you said, Papa, it propels the narrative and the characters and everything. Speaking of propelling character choices, after the match, Mustafa Ali comes in with the chair to try to attack Cedric Alexander. Cedric Alexander looks to set up what I believe was going to be a lumbar check, which is one of my favorite moves from Cedric that he does. But then betrayal, because Tasha Steelz gives us the low blow heard around the world. And
treacherous perfidy.
So she low blows Cedric Alexander. Cedric Alexander is in shock, also cradling the family jewels. Ali doesn't know what to make of it. And Tasha kind of leaves with Ali up the ramp. And I was just like, she just played us. I was like, she just played me. I was like, thank you, TNA, because look, for the last month and a half that we had this, I personally, and Papa here also, we have personally not loved the portrayal of Tasha because she's been played as this scared little girl to Ali since joining Order 4 and since Ali losing to Mike Santana at Rebellion in that street fight / falls count anywhere match. But now she is kind of, no, now I'm in charge. You're going to listen to me, which we get a whole lot of that later in the show. Mm-hmm. But I was just like, thank you, TNA, because I was not vibing with Tasha being in this position. Literally, her moniker is the Boricua Badass. There's nothing Boricua Badass about her being afraid of Ali. But we'll get more into that later. So I was like, thank you, TNA. Thank you. So we're going to come back to Order 4 in a little bit later because we got some things that are going to be happening. But right now, let's get into our other knockouts match of the evening. This is a tag team match. Again, this has so many story threads that are spanning two different companies right now. And everything is kind of like all crazy right now. So we get this. Well, before we even talk about this match, to remind everybody from the review last week, we found out that Masha will be having a match at Slammiversary, and she will be putting her TNA Knockouts Championship on the line. However, in conjunction with Santino and NXT liaison Ariana Grace, we come to find out that Masha will be facing the winner of whoever walks out as NXT Women's Champion this Sunday at Evolution, whether that be JC Jane or Jordan Grace. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm fine with this because Ash has a championship match in the background at some point. So I'm like, okay, cool. Then we learned that it's going to be a title versus title winner take all match, which means somebody is walking out as both TNA Knockouts champion and NXT Women's champion. And I'm like, oh boy. I was just like, There are so many variables that I care not try to figure out right now because I have to see who walks out as champion on Sunday between Jordan Grace and JC Jane. So we're getting some interaction though, because Fatal, I want to say Fatal Attraction, but it's Fatal Influence. There's too many toxic attraction, Fatal Influence. Like there's too many of those in NXT right now. But last week, we had JC and Fatal Influence attacking Masha after her chain match with Killer Kelly. And so then Masha was saved by Zaya Brookside and Liang Li, which leads us into this match of JC and Fallon of NXT taking on Masha and Liang Li of TNA. I love Liang Li so much. I don't care what nobody says. I love me some good mixed martial arts and, martial artistry mixed into this. And dare I say, JC, I know I have some critiques on you when we do the NXT review, but you know what? You and Fallon actually did pretty good. And Masha, you're Masha, so I love you. So, I'm not going to lie. I was kind of half-heartedly expecting Masha and Liang Li here to be on the losing side. I'm kind of glad they didn't. But also that makes me worried for what we're getting at Slammiversary. I think about this too much, you guys. Like, I really do. I'm like, So, Papa, I'm going to come to you first about this match. So, tag team match, what did you think?
It was good. I loved it. It had the outcome that I figured it was going to be. But I'm going to remark on the crossover because I have noticed it's starting to get a little convoluted. And I'm just like, titles are everywhere. And that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. But now it's like all of the titles, it looks like, are doing it. And I'm just like, is this going to be another one of those? Like, I love the crossover because we've had some great moments. I'm sorry, the whole thing with Trick holding on to the TNA. And it's all for, and I get what it's for. It's all for selling tickets. I totally get it. But it's starting to get super convoluted. It's starting to get so confusing, and it's starting to annoy me. But other than that.
So this is something that I caught on from the commentary, pretty much like at least the entire first half of this show. They're hyping up WWE real hard.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say this like this line is a joke mostly. But did TKO buy TNA while we weren't looking? Like,
I was about to say, I'm just like, so, okay. I'll let you continue, Radio, but really quickly, that I've been having this kind of thought in the back of my head since Battleground for NXT over Memorial Day weekend when Trick beat Joe Hendry for the title. I'm like, I know they have a working relationship. Okay, this gives Trick something to do. It keeps him away from the NXT championship scene. Cool and everything. What I'm hoping to kind of summarize all my thoughts, because we'll be here forever. What I'm hoping is, because Trick is holding on to the TNA World Championship, if we have an NXT star hold the TNA Championship, what I'm hoping is that we do the opposite, where Masha ends up becoming double champ. And honestly, to me, that's the better option, because I would love to see Masha not only fight who we have here in TNA, but be able to have some matches over in NXT as well, going up against some of the NXT women's roster, which would be a lot of fun. I'm looking at you, Lash Legend. But
I am frequently looking at Lash Legend.
Mrs. Trick Williams, yes. But anyway. But there's so many convoluted plot lines for all of this too. And there's so many moving scales and factors with all of this. So I'm just like, I feel that NXT is benefiting a lot from this more so than TNA right now. But, depending on what happens at Slammiversary, I might eat crow, especially if Masha walks out as double champ. And if somehow we could get Mike or Joe to get back his title. So That's the other thing too. We'll talk about it when we talk about the Joe Hendry sit down interview, but now it's gone from a one-on-one to a triple threat, which makes me going crazy. Papa, you have your hand raised. You are muted. You are still muted. All right.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah. So we'll keep going. But yeah, there's. But anyways, back to the match. This was fine. So, Radio, I want to get your thoughts about this and any additional things you got before we move on.
No, that's pretty much what I got for this match. I mean, it was a good match. I am a little bummed that Killer Kelly got such a hype up, a couple weeks ago, and is now just like not.
I mean, that's very, very fair. So, I mean, I hope she sticks around. So we'll see what happens with all of that. But again,
okay,
Masha,
I'm here now.
Okay,
Sorry. So I was researching, and my computer went crazy. But apparently, according to Ringside News, TKO is in discussions of purchasing TNA.
Why are we not surprised?
Mild shock.
Yeah, I was like, I think I saw something about that, and sure enough, yeah. So anyway, that was me. Yeah.
And honestly, we talked about this when we first got the NXT and TNA like working relationship thing that we got. I was just like, I would not be surprised if WWE/TKO is making their way to buy this company, whatnot. I was just like, that means they'll get all the library properties, which includes, all the early 2000 greatest hits of TNA, like the triple threat with Christopher Daniels and Joe and AJ and all that, to what we have now.
But then
would I like that? Not really, but right now we're going to pretend
suck all the good out of it.
Yeah.
That was one of the great things I like about TNA is that they're not beholden to anybody. And so they can do all this really cool stuff that we see and that we love. And the minute Daddy TKO takes over, it's going to get they're going to completely change everything because that's what they do. And it's just I think it's going to tank. And I hate that because there's so much good talent at TNA. And I'd be afraid that they would leave or be released.
Yeah.
So anyway, but back to our regularly scheduled program.
Yeah. I will finish off by saying this. JC looked totally distraught after losing this match. I was like, good. No, I'm just kidding. Again, it's so weird seeing this dual dichotomy. JC looking depressed here, and then she's like overly confident over on NXT. It's getting crazy out here. But Masha and Li Yingling hold it down for TNA. Again, whatever happens this Sunday, we will find who Masha will be facing at Slammiversary after this Sunday, and whoever walks out as NXT Women's Champion. So Jordan's going to have a busy weekend. She's got 2 pay-per-views that she got to be doing tomorrow and on Sunday. So it should be interesting. This could be summarized as, I swear to God, TNA, if you do not let Leon Slater walk out as champion at Slammiversary, we're going to have some words during the review.
Just put the sign up now. If Moose wins, we riot.
Yes. Listen, I have nothing against Moose, but I need Leon Slater, the youngest in charge. Let this man be the face of the X Division for the remainder of this year. I mean, I feel like 2.5 years here, he's proven himself to be amazing, had some banger matches against some folks. Mm-hmm. And of course, since we cover international stuff, he is also very good in Progress and Rev Pro UK. Watching him fight, that British catch style wrestling is very fun, and also being high flying as well. So again, if Moose wins, we riot. But and I talked a little bit about this last week, but I also want to shout out TNA because that video package that we got last week and then the video package we got this week, I'm like, man, why do I feel like y'all gonna pull the rug from me? You're making me love Leon Slater even more. I mean, last week made me shed a little bit of a tear, especially when we got the home footage of him and his mom and wrestling with his little sister. I'm like, God, you can't do that, TNA, and then have him not win. I swear. But again, Leon tells Moose is like, you're confident now, but come Slammiversary, I'm gonna be the one that walks out of New York as the champion. I'm like, damn straight. Please do the right thing. But we also got a secondary. Again, the system find themselves in multiple storylines for whatever reason. Because we got this one with Moose, and then Matt Cardona in the same scene comes up and asks the system for help because Dark State from NXT is running amok. And that's the other thing, too. Dark State made their TNA kind of debut from NXT, attacking Matthew and running havoc. I'm like, oh, God, not the factions. And Papa, we talked about this over on NXT. We're like, whatever happened to Dark State? Because all we've been getting are these promos after Stand and Deliver, and they really haven't had any matches. Well, now we know where they are. And I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this. On the one hand, at least it gives them something to do. But them versus the system, I don't know if I'm vibing with that.
Is Dark State a heel? I haven't watched NXT in a million years. Is Dark State a heel faction or?
Yeah, they're pretty much a heel faction. So the premise of Dark State and how they came together is that these are the guys that feel like NXT isn't utilizing them. So a la Nexus and all the other stuff beforehand, but like very watered down. There's like one member of Dark State that we actually like in Saquon Sugars. I love Saquon. I've seen him on the Independents. He's fantastic. Don't care about all the others. I'm not even going front.
So you mean to tell me what they tried to do with, oh my God, what was that name that was that Mustafa Ali was in?
Retribution, yeah.
Retribution. So they're doing Retribution again. Awesome. Love that.
So bad. But the system's like, no, we're not going to help you. And I was just like, they're going to end up helping Matt Cardona because they're going to get attacked next week or something that sets up something for Slammiversary. I'm like, okay.
If we must.
I'm really ready for someone to take the system down. I'm done with them.
I'm
so done with the system.
But here's the interesting question, though. If we do get system being, I'm going to be so for real. If we do get system plus Matt Cardona versus Dark State, I'm only rooting for Matt Cardona. Yeah. I don't care about Dark State. I don't care about the system. And I'm like, don't you dare turn the system babyface because you cannot get me to cheer for them.
A few years ago, there was an AEW pay-per-view, or maybe just like one of their, like, sometimes they do the special episode of Dynamite, like Fyter Fest and Winter is Coming and all that. But there was one of those matches where like one of the big matches that they were hyping up was Jeff Jarrett versus Jeff Hardy, and there's someone in the sign that says, "I hope Jeff wins."
Was this the Texas Chainsaw Massacre match? Because that was bad, but like so bad it was good.
Maybe I know specific. All I remember was the card because I remember making the joke, "I hope Jeff wins," and evidently someone had the same joke because I saw that sign in the crowd. I hope they still have that sign so they can bring it to this show and Dark State versus the system. I hope Jeff wins.
It's the same thing that we had like this past 2 weeks is like, let's go Kyle. Which one?
Oh, these guys are Kyle.
I love wrestling fans sometimes, but I don't care. I'm rooting for Matt in this whole situation, and that's about it. Everybody else, I'm like, I'm fine with all of this. So let's move on. Okay, this was just a lot of slapping meats. Essentially, this was.
I do have a couple of jokes about this. This match made me realize that just for future reference, if you do ever decide to have me back on this podcast, I have watched entirely too much Mystery Science Theater 3000 over the course of my life. So a lot of my commentary are going to be jokes, kind of like riffing on what's happening. Mance Warner is basically the Briscoe stepbrother, isn't he?
I mean, they might be cousins, but like...
No comment on that bit.
They were cousins. No, honestly, I would not be surprised if they come from the same wrestling thought, because literally Mance Warner's moniker on GCW and the Independents, he is the Southern Psychopath.
Right. Well, and that they do announce him as being from Tennessee, whereas the Briscoes are from Delaware, but very specifically and proudly from Delaware. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's all good. But again, this was for the TNA International Championship, so this is a triple threat. Last week we were getting a number one contenders match between Mance and Jake something. First of all, Jake, hey. I'm so happy you're back. I have missed you. I'm glad that you were able to get your injury all taken care of. But of course, it went to a no contest last week between Jake something and Mance Warner because they got up in Steve Macklin's face and a whole brawl came about from it. And Steve Macklin backstage, as they continue to fight backstage, he's like, you both want a chance at this? Fine, I'll fight both of you. Bring it. So this is how we get here. First and foremost, I love all three of these men. Steve Macklin has really turned it around. I'm really glad that we took him away from Eric Young and that whole feud because we were getting tired of it. I love Mance. He's going to be a busy boy the next couple of weeks. And Jake something, that is a big man. That is a big boy.
that is a very big man. And again, being a newcomer to TNA, he's been out on an injury for a while.
Yeah, I think the last time we saw him was back in November, maybe. Papa? Yeah, he's been out since like towards the tail end of last year.
Okay, no hate on him, but I can tell
he's still got a little ring rust.
Definitely got a little bit of ring rust on him in this match. Some of the punches and some of the Irish whips were not as clean as they could have been. Again, no hate. I understand ring rust is a thing, and sometimes you're just away from it for too long. Believe me, local president of the Eddie Kingston fan club, New England chapter. I am similarly concerned for my boy Eddie when he finally gets back. Yeah, no, it's like. And I know I've definitely seen like other clips of him in like other indie promotions and stuff, but and it seemed like he's still sort of getting back into the swing of things a little bit in this match.
Right. Which I'm glad they made this a triple threat because for some reason I didn't write who pinned who in this, but if I remember correctly, Mance got pinned in this, which makes sense.
Yeah.
So that means we still got Jake versus Macklin down the road, whether that be at Emergence, Victory Road, or Bound for Glory, which is the next 3 pay-per-view cycle leading into the fall. Papa, I blame you for this one because now every time I see Steve Macklin, I just immediately stare at his jaw. I hate you that you brought it up. Every time I was just like, Mr. Deonna Purrazzo, that is a jaw you can cut things with.
That's a man who could use chinderware.
So, I mean, this was a pretty fun match. I also love Steph. I know she's still dealing with injury, but it's nice that she's still around. Hopefully when she's ready to get back in the ring. I miss Steph DeLander, the Python powerhouse, back in our ring. But yeah, Steve Macklin retains the TNA International Championship by pinning Mance Warner. We know we're getting Jake and Steve to continue feuding after Slammiversary, or we might get it at Slammiversary. Who knows? TNA decides to do weird things as we get closer to pay-per-views. But overall, this is a pretty fun match. I enjoyed it, and I'm glad that Macklin is still international champion. So hopefully his title reign is still full of fun. This is the most dysfunctional family ever. So Tasha is walking in the parking lot, which thank goodness is not the NXT parking lot because as we say on NXT all the time, the NXT parking lot is the most dangerous place on the planet because that's where people get jumped. People have gotten kidnapped. Somebody got thrown off the top of the building into a dumpster one time. It is wild in the NXT parking lot. So the TNA parking lot is okay. But Tasha Steelz is walking back to this car. Ali is yelling at her, telling her to slow down and explain herself. And she's like, no, you're going to listen to me. I was like, I've been putting Order 4 back together, whether you want to acknowledge it or not. Then the Great Hands come in to kind of figure out what the heck is happening. And then she reminds the boys to be like, listen, those extra zeros on yo checks that you've been getting, remember where they came from. I'm like, oh, okay, she playing boss. She's doing a boss move. Okay. And so she's like, listen, Order 4 is going to be staying together, and we got to get it together, y'all. And I'm just like, okay, Tasha, I see you. And I was like, all right, I'm interested to see where this goes. I'm excited. Tasha kind of leading the charge a little bit. I'm excited to see what's next. This is not what I had in mind, team. This was not in this picture. It was not what I had in mind. As soon as I heard, do you want to know something? I'm like, oh, Lord, here we go. The two things I don't want. These two fighting again. These two factions fighting again and again. The system really be out here having like 5 different feuds all at once. And I'm like, why? It's like, why? So essentially, this back and forth sets up a match next week. I'm like, I bet you $5 that Dark State comes in to interrupt this match.
Yep. Faction wars. They need their they need a 4 walls match. Just 4 on like 4 on 4 on 4 on 4. You know?
A 16-person tag match. Lord have mercy.
That would. I'm not sure if that would be the worst thing ever or the best.
or we could just move on from this rubbish.
I like that answer a lot.
Yep.
So we set up a match between Order 4 and the system next week. If we were betting men and men's is Dark State's about to intervene somehow. So should be interesting. I say should be interesting, but not really. I don't care. We can move on. I have questions. This is where I have the biggest question in my mind right now. So
yeah.
First, I was just like, we get the pop-up logo of Fourth Rope, but I was like, holy shit, what is about to happen?
So Fourth Rope, I'm not familiar with Fourth Rope. Is that another promotion or?
That's like an independent promotion that kind of on the same level as GCW. Sure. I would say in the US base, I always see a lot about GCW, House of Glory, which is HOG for short, and then Fourth Rope.
Okay. Yeah,
that's a
new one to me.
I was just like, okay, I'm familiar with some talent in Fourth Rope, so I'm interested to see what it has. I swear to you all, this was not on my bingo card in 2025 when I thought that Mr. Enzo here would be popping up back on my television screen after everything that has happened in the professional wrestling world since, his whole run in WWE and now in the independents and all that. I'm like, oh my God, this man might actually pop up in Slammiversary. Holy shit, I was not ready for this. So, I don't know how to feel.
What's really fun, like I can only imagine like TNA reaching out to like other promotions and like, all right guys, let's who can we get in? And Enzo pops up. Meanwhile, all of the people in TKO that were here the first time he was in WWE were like, no, don't fucking do. No, I swear to God, don't.
Which makes me hopeful that TKO is like, on second thought, we gonna let y'all do your thing.
I don't know if Undertaker is actually no, because he's on LFG. So Undertaker's over here just going like, really? Him?
I have so many questions, TNA. Papa, to kind of fill you in, he's gone through so many name changes. So currently he is Enzo. So he used to be in WWE long time ago. And actually, I liked him. I still have him and Big Cass's shirts and before I got rid of them, and a baseball jersey that went with it. So it's very stereotypical, like back east New Jersey and New Yorkian, whatever you want to call it. Bada bing, realest dude in the room, how you doing type of stuff.
Yeah.
And actually, him and Big Cass, who is now Large William, as we call him in AEW, they actually were a really good tag team. And the crowd loved them, but then he got in his own way and fucked it for himself.
I'm actually really surprised. Like just like, I know it's been a long time since his time in WWE, and he, like, it's not that he didn't get in, he got in his own way. That was part of it, because they tried to split up him and Big Bill. They should have kept them together as number one. They should have kept them together as a tag team. Number two, when they did split them up to do singles pushes, Enzo got the bigger push, and because he's a smaller dude, they put him on 205 Live,
which was the Cruiserweight show, which was amazing until they canceled it.
Well, and it was amazing until they canceled it, but because he was such like because of the ego that he had on him back in those days, and I don't know what's happened to the guy. He may have grown out of it. He may be a different person now. What happens behind in the locker room is completely different from what happens in the ring. I get that. But here's the thing. Because of his grandstanding with the Cruiserweight title in those days, he pissed off a lot of people. Most notably, people like Mustafa Ali and Cedric Alexander.
Right.
And, the person fortunately, the person that he pissed off the most was Neville, now known as Pac. So, who is in a completely different promotion. So there's no chance of those two, killing each other. But it still, like, and I've also heard some real horror stories about his behavior in the ring. The reason I brought up Undertaker earlier is because Enzo got taken to wrestler's court a fuck ton.
Oh, it was wild.
Like, I remember hearing reports of the number of times that he had to buy, like, he basically had to cover the tab at the bar after a show, or like, hell, there was even I specifically remember hearing instances about him not being allowed to ride on the tour bus.
There is a very infamous Simon Gotch interview where
dude had to find his own way to the next show. And because he had such bad blood backstage, like, nobody wanted to deal with him. Nobody was willing, like, yeah, sure, Enzo, ride with me. No, everybody fucking hated him. And so he's at the point where he has to basically call a Greyhound to get to the next town for the next show.
Yeah, he had a big ego problem when he was in WWE. And then even after he got released from the company, the shenanigans that still happened, like he mentioned it in here. He talked about the Madison Square Garden incident, to where he bought a ticket to the front row during this whole thing, and then WWE had to escort him out and everything. I'm like, what the hell?
Didn't know anything about that.
Once he got released from the company, he still showed up to the shows, and he bought a ticket to the front row to grandstand and everything. Again, as you said, Radio, the fact that, he might have grown out of it. It's been years since that happened, but I seeing him on my TNA screen, I just go like this. I'm like, okay, we're just gonna take a deep breath in, and we're gonna hope that things are gonna be okay. Because, ooh.
Although the money belt there, puts me in two different mindsets.
Oh Lord.
Number one, put him in first class.
Oh no! Oh my gosh! Why would you do that? Okay, guys.
Because money. That's why.
Oh Lord, I don't know if I can handle Enzo with AJ Francis and Casey Navarro. Ooh, why would you put that out in the universe?
Clip it. Somebody in the chat. Somebody in the chat. Clip that. The other thing that comes to mind, though, is, especially given his talent on the mic and the sort of different class of person this character represents, can you imagine the promo battle between him and MJF?
Oh my God. This would be wild.
Especially if you put the belt back on MJF. This guy comes out here with this gaudy ass, dollar sign belt. MJF comes out with the triple B. The
world would implode.
Yeah. It just.
So, all to say is that if he's involved, because we are in the backyard for not only fourth row, but also Enzo himself, very interested to see how he pops in for TNA if he pops in. So I'm like, TNA, I have questions, but we gonna ride with it.
Like it's like in the immortal words of one of the great sports commentators of history, it's a bold move, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
So Enzo, we'll see if you pop up at Slammiversary. So we're gonna keep a close eye on this. So we get our third knockouts match of the evening. This one I actually did enjoy. This is Indy Hartwell taking on Victoria Crawford.
This was a squash match.
Yes, because we know that we already know we're getting Indy versus Tessa at Slammiversary. Fingers crossed that Indy wins. So it gives her her first big win since signing with the company back in April for Indy. So I love you, Victoria, formerly known as Alicia Fox. I love that you got your life together, girl. But yeah, this was a means to the end where Indy beats Victoria. Tessa and Indy kind of duke it out a little bit. And again, this is continuing to tell what we're getting at Slammiversary. So, but I love you, Indy. I do. You're my girl.
So, if I may ask, and
go for it.
Your comment about her getting her life together, I'm concerned that this question may be inappropriate.
Wait, hold up. Before you answer, let's just do this. Where'd I put it? There we go.
Because
no, I'm just kidding. Go for it. What's your question?
Because I'm unfamiliar with like the real life story going on.
Mm-hmm.
Is Victoria supposed to be bad at wrestling?
So this is how I will put it. So I'll give you,
because if it's the gimmick, bravo, masterful performance. There was a lot here, and I'm like, this is frustrating to watch.
So here's how I can explain it. So Victoria has only been wrestling again because she took a little bit of a hiatus. She's been wrestling for about a year and a half again. So to kind of give you the full story, so Alicia Fox over here, part of the Divas era of WWE,
right.
Not as bad as the 2000s women's division because we got slightly less bra and panty matches, and but also everybody who was
the horror.
Yes, the horror of the bra and panty matches and the mud fighting and poor Ms. Mike Mizanin having to do the Diva Search whole thing, which those were dark times for the women's division in wrestling.
Yes.
Period.
Oh yes, I'm having those Apocalypse Now flashbacks as we speak.
But Victoria was part of the Divas era in WWE, and her story goes, she really didn't get utilized a ton. Because we had the Bellas still around, and then Natalia, Tamina, then of course, Total Divas was a thing as well. And then once we got like Caitlyn and Paige and AJ Lee, then we kind of started taking it more seriously. So the other girls transitioned to be that. Alicia wasn't really used too much except for gimmicks and stuff like that. But then towards the tail end, before she was gone from the company, there's also, and she's gone on record in saying this. So this is, I don't have to say allegedly because she's shared this. She was struggling with alcohol addiction and things like that. Okay. So, and she even said that there were a few matches where she wrestled buzzed a little bit too. So she ended up becoming a liability. Then she ended up going to rehab. She's been sober ever since, but because of how much the machine that WWE is and the touring schedule and how, underneath the previous regime, all that went, she kind of took a break from wrestling for a little bit to go do other stuff, promotional speaking. And then the last year and a half, she's kind of slowly gotten back into it. And now she finds herself here in TNA.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it was like, I understand the sort of heel strategy of like powdering every chance you get, like in the ring and then out and then sort of like walk around like, yep, I'm gonna take a break. Throw a punch out of the ring, take a break. But like that move, that spot only works once or twice. You got to switch it up a little bit. It can't be like the whole thing. And it's like the spot that really made me like, and did she really do that? Was the noogie.
She definitely still has some diva era stuff because yeah.
Like Indy Hartwell in a headlock, noogie. Like
so here's the thing. How do I say this without getting us in trouble? So I think Victoria
has more viewers.
I mean, that's very true. I definitely think that Victoria needs to work on it. Again, she's coming back and it definitely shows. However, I'm giving her a little bit of grace because just like anybody, whether they are new or coming back to wrestling, as long as I see some improvement from Victoria, then I am here for the journey. Yeah. But we shall see what happens in all of that. But again, this was to serve the purpose of Tessa and Indy fighting afterwards.
Right.
But I hope Indy wins at Slammiversary. I really do.
Absolutely. And not just because it means she beat the crap out of Tessa Blanchard.
Which we love to see, yes. Which we love to see. So we get to sit down with Joe Hendry. TikTok, I need y'all to chill out because I don't know what's going on with my algorithm. I don't know what's going on with the algorithm on TikTok, but lots of people have been making edits of this band. I was like, what? I was like, okay.
Joe Hendry edits now? And of course, because I said that out loud within earshot of my phone, I'm going to start getting them.
Oh, Lord, here we go. So we get to sit down interview with Joe Hendry. This is a very serious-ish Joe Hendry talking about, I'm like, again, did I like this? Yes. Why did we take so long to get this like in character? I feel so disappointed for losing the championship. I'm like, where was this weeks ago? Again, we got the right parts, but we're putting them in the wrong order. And I feel like this is the third time I've kind of heard this story from Joe Hendry within the last couple of weeks too. And I'm just like, this is kind of why I'm not vibing with it. Joe, I love you, but we got to change it up, my mans. I love you, Joe, but this was not it for me.
We believe in Joe Hendry.
We do believe, but I'm kind of rooting for Mike Santana, not going front.
Yeah.
But Joe, I love you. But if Trick doesn't get pinned, I fear that you are going to be eating this pin. I don't know. When we do our predictions next Friday for Slammiversary, we can speculate all the theories because there are too many ways that this can go, and it hurts my brains.
Yeah.
So we love you, Joe. I'm here for you and Mike Santana being a tag team. I hope that's not the direction, though, after Slammiversary. Somebody, whether it's you or Mike, needs to bring this title back to TNA. Bring it back, because I'm tired of seeing Trick Williams run around. And something tells me that High Rise might be getting involved at Slammiversary, which I'm cool for it, because, black excellence on television. But enough with the shenanigans. But here we go. Okay. So how do I put this? The heels win. No surprise there. I love watching Myron wrestle because Myron is great. This actually was a pretty decent match. I was expecting it to not be as fun as it was. I had fun with this match. Damn, AJ Francis, though. You went hard. I was like, y'all went in. AJ, I need you to, you're like right here. I need you to take it down like right here, my guy. It's nice to see Casey, though, back in the ring because I was afraid that his injury was going to keep him out for longer. So that's nice to see. This was a main event. That's the best way I could put it.
It sure was a wrestling match.
It was a thing of wrestling. Let's be real. I was just like, yeah, this was as interesting as you can to make it, given the fact that we have a size and age differences between everybody on this ring, and also thrown in the fact that we could tell who's been wrestling forever, who is kind of still newer to wrestling in the single digits club. I enjoyed the Rascals. That is my takeaway from this match. I like watching the Rascals wrestle because I think they are the most dynamic of these four. Not to say that everybody needs to be flying off of everywhere all the time, but I'm just like, yeah. The bad guys win, which makes me very interested to see what happens at Slammiversary, but I digress. Yeah, we can move on.
Yeah.
I mean, a brawl breaks out afterwards.
I was going to say that, but I digress, and you just get Taz up there. It's the end.
The end.
And they lived happily ever after.
I'm so mad by that main event. I was just like, the show wasn't perfect, but there were some pretty good spots. But I was like, again, we need to order the way these matches happen. I'm not even going front.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be so for real. I feel like we could have switched that 8-man with Masha and Liang Li and JC and Fallon.
Oh, yeah.
Put it there. And I thought the order would have been greater. But that is it for our TNA wrestling review. I will say this was because I reviewed it last week. This was definite improvement from last week's episode. I'm not even going front. But hopefully the go home show has some crazy stuff. And then we'll probably get like 5 more matches added too. So who knows? Well, actually, no, this is not AEW where we announce like 8 more matches like the day of the show. And also tonight. Oh my God. Tony Khan, I love you. But like, I was fine with just having like 5 matches for the Ring of Honor card. And then you throw 4 on 0 Hour and then 4 more on the main card. I'm like, Lord help us.
That's okay. Like you brought up AEW. So, and I have a conspiracy theory. We were talking about this a little bit before we went live. and this is, I need to put this out there, put this out to the internet. Okay. So on Dynamite this week, Tony Storm and Mercedes Moné had that promo, the back and forth promo, right? And Mercedes said at the end, like her last line was, on Sunday, I mean Saturday, may the best woman win. That was not a botch. It is my personal belief that was not a botch. She said that on purpose. That was an intentional line, taking shots at WWE's Evolution show, because WWE is so trying so hard to aggressively counter program AEW. And so when she comes out and says on Sunday, she didn't even like skip a line. Like if it was a flub, she would have said on Saturday. No, she finished the word on Sunday, pause. I mean Saturday, may the best woman win. She is saying that the best women are in AEW. It doesn't matter how hard WWE stacks that PLE. The best women are in AEW. Now, if only Tony Khan would book a show like it.
Please, we say this all the time on our Tuesday reviews for AEW. We love this women's division, but we got to have more than one women's match or one women's segment each episode of Dynamite and Collision. But I digress. Well, I mean, speaking of AEW, we might be done with TNA for tonight, but the weekend is not over. So here's what you can expect this weekend. There, tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern, I will be doing a quick mini bite-sized review of Ring of Honor Super Card of Honor pay-per-view, which was tonight. I got 2 more matches to finish after this, which was the Athena versus Thunder match and the Bandito versus Konosuke Takeshita match for the respective men's and women's championship. So that's going to be in the morning. Then strap your seatbelts, kids, guys, gals, non-binary pals of the internet, because 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central, all the different time zones. This show is about to change this landscape of how the remainder of AEW's booking is going to go for the remainder of this year. To me, this show is really big because it's going to reset, end some stuff, begin some new ones, but we will be doing a live watch along of AEW's All in Texas, or what I have lovingly called it, since we're in the Lone Star State, y'all in Texas.
So, quick question.
What's up?
Quick prediction question about one of the matches on All In this year. Do you think that this is going to set up for Swerve and Hangman to finally bury the hatchet, or do you think it's going to set up for one more match between them at All Out?
That is a good question. I want to lean okay, because we did predictions on the Tuesday show, so I went with Ospreay and Swerve winning. But again, I can also make an argument as to why they lose. They get put in the tag team championship scene, or they feud because Swerve is mad at Will for opening his big mouth. Love you, Will, but you tend to do that a lot. But
my ADHD bro, yeah, no, I get it. Oh shit, I forgot my filter for that one.
It's all good.
No, that's what he was thinking.
I think Swerve is going to help Hangman. I think that's where we're going. Again, we'll see how it plays out, but that is going to be our watch along for the afternoon, which an interesting choice, but I'm not mad about it. So I'm not up at like 10 p.m. at night watching these things. I will be done by dinner time, which is great. But then, of course, we talked about it. And listen, I know that I review all the promotions. So I'm allowed to take shots at everything and everyone because I can. But the WWE boys have decided that if we were going to do a watch along for anything this weekend for WWE, it is going to be the Evolution, because while Triple H, not Triple H, you don't get Triple H, you get Hunter until you fix things. Hunter and TKO may have not cared about the build and their women's division, but we do. So we will be doing a live watch along of Evolution, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. And all I can say is nobody's winning between Rhea and Io because the internet will flame one or both of them. WWE put themselves in the corner for this one, so we'll see. But we got a whole jam-packed weekend, and that's not even covering what's coming up this week because...
But at least Trish Stratus is back. Yay.
Listen, I love Trish with all my heart, but this is a match that we did not need to see because it's basically a rerun. But it is what it is.
I've never liked Trish Stratus.
But
I understand that puts me in the minority of wrestling fans. Like even in her heyday, never a fan.
I was like, Mickey James is right there, you guys. But I digress. But you know what? That's a whole different conversation. But that's going to be it for us here at Takedown Troupe. Thank you so much. Make sure to tune into all the goodness we got going on this week. Also, again, join us for the watch-alongs. Join us for all the fun stuff coming up this week. Just as a program note, I will be technically on vacation next week, but I will be here for Friday's TNA review because that show's kind of important, as that is the go-home show review before Slammiversary. And also, we will be doing a watch-along for Slammiversary Sunday the 20th, or at least I will, and hopefully the other boys will be able to join me, which we'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, until then, this is for all of us here from Takedown Troupe. Remember, take care of yourself, love one another, stay iconic, and more importantly than anything, you always deserve to finish your story. We will catch you tomorrow for lots of wrestling goodness and also a loaded weekend. But until then, this is sayonara, adios. Until tomorrow, we'll catch you later. But until then, peace.